Good day, everyone. Regardless of your gender, I welcome you to my presentation regarding Carol Gilligan's Woman's Place in Man's Life Cycle. First of all, who is Carol Gilligan? She is an American feminist, theorist, ethicist, and psychologist who changed the way the field of psychology studied women, and, arguably, the way society views women. Just like in this topic, she concludes that women's concept is just different from men's, but it is not inferior. The reading started with Anton Chekhov's play called The Cherry Orchard. Here, Lapine said that men are giants because of the world's vastness, but Madame Ranevskaya interrupted him, saying that giants are only good in fairy tales, but scary anywhere else. This suggests that the perspective may be different depending on gender. The more we try to eradicate sexual discrimination, the differences are discovered. According to Gilligan, these discoveries occur when theories formerly considered to be sexually neutral in their scientific objectivity are found instead to reflect a consistent observational and evaluative bias. For example, the classic The Elements of Style by William Strunk and E.B. White. Here are the statements from the book. For men, he was an interesting talker, or a man who had traveled all over the world and lived in half a dozen countries. But for women, well, Susan, this is a fine mess you're in. Or a woman, accompanied by two children, is walking slowly down the road. We see life in men's eyes and consider their behavior as the norm. They try to fashion women out of men's clothing. This started with the story of Adam and Eve. We know that Eve is made from Adam's flesh, and the story goes with Eve eating the forbidden fruit. This insinuates that if you make a woman out of a man, the woman will get defiant and get trouble. The question is, if men and women have different behaviors, when and how did it form differently? These are the major stages tackled in the essay. Let's start with early childhood. First is Sigmund Freud's Oedipus complex. It came from the story Oedipus Rex, where the protagonist named Oedipus ended up killing his own father and marrying his mother. In this complex, the child feels attraction to the parent of opposite sex. For him, the attachment of the girl to her mother is considered as developmental failure. He tried to fit his masculine conception to women. By this, he said that women were never so inexorable, so impersonal, so independent of its emotional origins as we require it to be in men. In addition, he stated that women show less justice and are more often influenced by their feelings. Hence, the problem is in their experience of relationships. On the other hand is Nancy Chodorow, who attributes these differences to the fact that women are more responsible for early childcare. Thus, female personality defines itself through relation and connection to other people more than masculine personality does. Girls fuse themselves to their mothers. On the contrary, boys will separate themselves from their mothers because of their opposite sexuality. Chodorow added that it doesn't mean that girls have weaker ego boundaries. In contrast to Freud's negative description of women, she replaced it with a more positive account. Girls feel empathy and think others' feelings as their own. Masculinity is tied with separation and individuation, while femininity is defined through attachment. Therefore, males have difficulties with relationships, and females have problems with individuation. Next is middle childhood stage. Children's games were studied by George Herbert Mead and John Piaget. They said that these years are crucial for children's social development. Janet Clever observed 181 fifth-grade children. She noticed that boys play more outdoors, with larger groups and more competitive games. The most interesting finding is that boys' games last longer than girls, because even though boys fight, they resolve it by debate and they reconcile after a few minutes. On the other hand, girls end their games because of the fight. To this, Lawrence Kohlberg added that girls' games don't necessarily have disputes, as their games are not competitive like boys' games. If they have a quarrel, they will end it because they prioritize their relationship more than the game and its rules. That's why there is not much moral lessons learned in girls' games. From Chodoro's early childhood study and Lever's observation in middle childhood games, the next stage are puberty and adolescence. Freud said that in puberty, boys access their libido while girls transform themselves from a young girl's masculine sexuality to a more feminine sexuality of her adulthood. Also, girls will be aware of their quote-unquote inferiority. In this, Erik Erikson charts 8 stages of psychosocial development with adolescence on its fifth stage. At first, the child will either trust or mistrust their guardians. In the second stage, if their independence are encouraged, it will support their autonomy. But if not, they will be shameful and doubt themselves. Third, they will either have the initiative to socialize. However, if they are criticized, they will feel the guilt of doing it in the first place. The fourth one is in the middle childhood stage, where their behavior depends on their self-esteem. Next is the adolescent stage. They will try to find themselves through explorations that will transition them to their adulthood. It is important to note that Erikson is talking about men. The pattern for women is a bit different in the last parts. Boys will proceed to intimacy and generativity, and girls will stay in their identity and wait for her man. For women, intimacy is not a separate stage. As stated by Erikson, males are related to the world, while females are related to intimate relationships. From the fairy tales Bruno Bettelheim described, men typically go on a journey to conquer the world, just like in the three languages. Women, such as Snow White or Aurora in Sleeping Beauty, wait for their prince to wake them up and live happily ever after. If a woman will have an adventure, she needs to dress and act like a man. This supports David McClelland's conclusion. He stated that sex roles turn out to be one of the most important determinants of human behavior. But there are the words better or worse if we say different. Since men are the ones who normally conduct studies about this, they will regard male behavior as the norm. Hence, when women don't conform to their standards, they will conclude that something is wrong with women. In McClelland's studies of men, he divided the concepts of achievement motivation into two components, which is hoping for success and fearing failure. On this, Horner added a third category for women, fear of success. Women tend to have problems in competitive achievement, and the problem seems to originate between success and femininity. If a woman succeeds in something, she will be anxious that there will be a negative consequence for that. Also, she is afraid that society will reject her and she will lose her femininity. However, these conflicts about success may be viewed differently. According to George Sassen, Horner's interpretation is present only if it was from a direct competition, which means that one success is another's failure. Sasson pointed out that women's anxiety towards success is about the emotional costs at which success achieved through competition is often gained. Rodero concluded that men's social orientation is positional, while women's is personal. He has the right to feel good about his success that he obtained fairly, and it just means that he is better than his competitors. In contrast, a woman might not be happy about her success because what she attained is not what she really wants. Virginia Woolf says that the values of women are different from that of men. Yet again, it is the masculine values that prevails. As a result, women will question the normality of their feelings, in deference to the opinion of others. Woolf also sees this deference and confusion as a strength. Women have sensitivity to others' needs and include others' point of view in their judgment. So, women's moral weakness is also their moral strength. Additionally, women define themselves not only in relationships, but also in their ability to care. Women's place in man's life cycle has been that of nurturer, caretaker, and helpmate, the weaver of those networks of relationships on which she, in turn, relies. On the contrary, men devalue that care and focus on individuation. If maturity is equated to autonomy, concern with relationships appear as a weakness rather than strength, as Miller said. The difference between womanhood and adulthood is evident in the studies on sex role stereotypes, reported by Broverman, Vogel, Broverman, Clarkson, and Rosencrantz. The findings showed that the qualities needed for adulthood, such as autonomous thinking, clear decision-making, and responsible action, are associated with masculinity and undesirable in femininity. These adulthood stereotypes are out of balance since they favor separateness over connection to others. Freud's criticism of women's sense of justice also appears in Piaget's and Kohlberg's works. Both of the said works are based on boys. That's why girls are deficient to meet their standards. This is Kohlberg's scale. Women are said to only reach the third stage. Kohlberg and Kramer imply that only if women see male activities, they will recognize the inadequacy of this moral perspective and progress like men toward higher stages. For every trait that defines the goodness of women, it is also the mark of their deficiency in moral development. However, when someone studies women and their development, it will be different from the studies of Freud, Piaget, and Kohlberg. Rather than competition, the problems will arise from responsibilities. It will be centered in care and relationships, instead of rights and rules. The issue of the woman that Kohlberg interviewed is addressed by Jane Louis Winger's fifth autonomous stage. For Kohlberg's principles, fairness and justice is the solution, while responsibility conception focuses on the limitations of the resolution and describing the rest. Not only this differentiates women's concept from men, it also gives an alternative conception of maturity. McClelland used the myth of Demeter and Persephone as examples of female attitudes towards power. When Persephone was kidnapped by Hades, Demeter mourned so nothing grows on earth. It shows that women continue to give importance to attachment. I will end this with Carol Gilligan's conclusion. Only when life cycle theorists divide their attention and begin to live with women as they have lived with men, will their vision encompass the experience of both sexes, and their theories become correspondingly more fertile. Thank you.